Welcome, everybody. My name is David Russell. I'm the chair of the Ipswich Democratic Town Committee, and with my group behind me, we put together a performance that I think you're going to like. And I don't know if you're. I don't know what's going on in everyone's heads, but from my head, every day I get more intense about what needs to happen, And this, what needs to happen, we not step on children. Number one. And this event here, a question I've heard has been raised, like, oh, this is a partisan event. Well, it's a partisan event for democracy. It's small d. I can quote, Liz Cheney said recently, we must defend the Constitution and the rule of law. I'm chair of the local Democrats. I'd like for the tent that could be included within this to be basically everyone. And I say that very, very sincerely. We don't want a small group to be in favor of democracy. We really want that to be the whole country. That's one little point. And with that, on the flyers that were around town, the Ipswich Human Rights Commission was listed as a sponsor, but because of concerns about partisanship and what their role should be, so they actually are not officially a sponsor of the event. But that is okay. Back in the 1930s, there was a play. Sinclair Lewis had a best-selling book, and with concerns for the rise of fascism around the world and what might even happen in the United States, some people rewrote his play, his long novel, into a small play that was put around the country simultaneously in many cities. And a group called the Writers for Democratic Action recently had the same idea. Well, not the same as the 1930s, but we do have a danger of authoritarianism, what might happen here in the country. So let's rewrite that play to match what's going on in the world and in the United States today. And this play that you're about to see has been played in many, many places around the United States in preparation for the election that we're having coming to us so soon. At the end of this, there's going to be a flyer available for people. I mean, this will hopefully be informative and inspiring to do things, and there are all kinds of things that people can do and are doing very much, I'm sure, in the room. But we're going to have a flyer that lists a whole bunch of other things, and if you're concerned with trying to have things go the way that you want them to do over the next month, can you do something a little more than you have done already? Something you haven't done yet? Try it out. I'm saying that for myself too. All of us, we have a certain thing. I'm comfortable with doing this. Is what I've been doing. Well, I'm not sure. Let me try something a little bit more. Michelle Obama's phrase repeated millions of times since the Democratic convention a while back. What is it? What'd you say? Do something. So that, and it's true. And there's all kinds of different things. We won't in this room agree on everything. That's natural and even good within a group. But stand up for what you believe in, express yourself, advance what you think is right, and that makes the world, a better place. I really think that it does, and I bet you do too. Okay, so. Introducing our cast tonight, Nancy Gilmartin, a writer and journalist. All right. Sharon Schiffer, from the Human Rights Commission. Also, Homes for All, soccer coach, et cetera, et cetera. We can say for everybody. None of us are one thing. That's a bit of who Sharon is. I don't know everybody here well, but I've had a pleasure of meeting some new people in the process, which I really, really enjoyed. Lynn Armstrong's a deacon at the church across the retired nurse. Wendy Dakovich from the Ipswich Democrats. And Julie Bijou, co-owner of Zoomies. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
It can't happen here.
A statement.
A declarative statement.
An ironic statement.
It can't happen here.
A provocation.
A warning.
The ultimate denial of reality.
It can't happen here.
The title of a novel and play by Sinclair Lewis. which perfectly expresses the complicity
and complacency.
of America in 1936.
And now,
In 1936, the tide of authoritarian dictatorship was flowing.
In 2024, the tide of authoritarian dictatorship is flowing.
in 1936, Adolf Hitler's stormtroopers reoccupied the Rhineland, a signal of a forbidden German rearmament that went unopposed.
And in 2024, Vladimir Putin began the third year of his full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
In 1936, Francisco Franco claimed totalitarian powers in Spain, and the brutal Spanish Civil War was ignited.
In 2024, the war between Israel and Hamas splintered the American left, threatening its ability to defend democracy.
In 1936, the Great Purge was underway in the Soviet Union, marked by the murders of 700,000 people, a tsunami of blood that secured the tyranny of Joseph Stalin. And in
In the United States of America,
On October 27, 1936, 1 week before a presidential election,
an election which would determine not only the fate of the New Deal, but of democracy itself.
coast-to-coast productions of a new play premiered simultaneously on 21 stages in 17 American cities. The play was called
It Can't Happen Here.
Based on the novel by Sinclair Lewis, America's first and at that time only Nobel laureate in literature.
That play, like our performance tonight, asks what happens when dictatorship threatens democracy?
And, less obviously,
What happens when complacency begets complicity?
In 1936, Hallie Flanagan was invited to do something big.
I wanted to do something really big, something that had never been done before. Backstory, I was asked by Harry Hopkins, my former classmate of Grinnell, to lead the newly created Federal Theater Project. Harry, wouldn't you know, was head of the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, and director of America's first and only national theater. Hey, that's not bad for a girl from Redfield, South Dakota.
She immediately commissioned Sinclair Lewis to write a stage adaptation of his novel.
I wanted to do It Can't Happen Here because it is a play about the American life today. The play says that when dictatorship comes to threaten democracy, it comes in apparently harmless guise with parades and promises. But when such dictatorship arrives, the promises are not kept, and the parade grounds become encampments. We as American citizens should like to do what we can to keep alive the free, inquiring, critical spirit, which is the center and core of democracy.
the play opened on the very same night in Birmingham and Denver,
Omaha and Los Angeles,
A New York production in Yiddish,
a Spanish production in Tampa,
a black production in Seattle,
featuring white actors as the villains.
In an article about the 21 simultaneous productions, the New York Times wrote, "Thousands of Americans who do not know what a fascist dictatorship would mean now have an opportunity to find out."
and today, in 2024,
Writers for Democratic Action invites us to gather for a reading.
A reminder.
and
A serious call to action.
The play you are now watching
Like the one staged across the country on October 27th,
is being publicly performed across America in bookstores and public squares,
theaters and coffee houses,
churches and bars.
all across the country.
We are gathered together to ask,
what's happening here?
What has happened here?
Can it happen here?
and
What can we do about it?
welcome all.
We're so grateful for your presence here.
Thank you for coming.
Together, we can make a difference.
Together, we can make our voices heard.
Welcome all.
The protagonist of Lewis' play is a small-town newspaper editor named
Doremus Jessup, the Daily Informer, Beulah Valley, Vermont.
the populist candidate for president running against Franklin Roosevelt is a character named
Berzelius Winthrop, Buzz for short.
On the campaign trail, Buzz Winthrop makes a speech.
Folks were wrong when they thought that this campaign trip of mine was to educate people about Buzz. No, it's me that got educated. What grand people I've been meeting. And everywhere I have found the true American people divided, kept apart by the politicians who, in their insensate selfishness, befool the very constituents who have placed them on their tinseled thrones. We ought to go back into the great councils of state, not asking them for anything but telling them. If you honor me with your votes, I shall not be president. No, I mean that. Not be president at all. But the telephone central from which every man in this great land can get in touch with every other man, so that, for the first time since 1860, we can be joined as one unified nation that will sweep the world. I will be your voice.
Dormis Jessup, educated, liberal.
Complacent.
Dormis Jessup, whose belief in reason over emotion naively extends to his fellow citizens, concludes,
It's not so much that I trust Winthrop as that I trust that.
Trust what?
You all. Look, God's own free, open American country. Do you know how big Texas is? Big as any 3 European countries put together. This isn't any one-horse European country that a dictator could get hold of. No, sir, it's too big. Dictatorship, it can't happen here.
Well, on May 10th, 1933 in Berlin, in an effort to cleanse Germany of un-German books, 25,000 volumes are burned.
burn Freud,
Burn Einstein.
Burn Kafka.
Burn Brecht.
Burn
Sinclair Lewis.
December 5th, 2023, the Fight Book Bans Act is introduced to the United States House of Representatives by Congressman Jamie Raskin.
And Representative Raskin says this: America is in the middle of an escalating book ban crisis that requires our full attention and strong response. Sinister campaigns to remove books from our schools and our libraries are a hallmark of authoritarian and fascist regimes.
Ban Atwood.
Ban me. Margaret Atwood. Quote, I had thought America was against totalitarianisms. If so, surely it is important for young people to be able to recognize signs of them. One of those signs is book banning. Need I say more?
Ban Morrison.
Ban me?
Toni Morrison, end quote. I come from a race of people whom at one time in this country, it was illegal to be taught to read. White people who taught black people how to read were taking the risk of being punished. I think the same sensibilities that informed those people to make it a criminal act for black people to learn to read are the ancestors of the same people who are making it a criminal act for their own children to read, and I don't see a great deal of difference between that.
Ban Henry Louis Gates.
ban me, Henry Louis Gates. Quote, censorship is to art as lynching is to justice.
But can it happen here?
Well, the justices on the current Supreme Court ruled that the President of the United States has broad immunity from prosecution for crimes he commits. So,
You mean like interfering in elections? Inciting an insurrection? And suspending the vote?
something like that, yeah.
Okay, I get it. I do. Roger that. But can it happen here?
It is happening here.
Whoa there, slow down.
Nothing like that is happening here.
Oh, it just looks and sounds and feels like it's happening here, but it's really not.
4 more years, and you know what? You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians.
Wait, what?
We'll have it fixed so good, you're not going to have to vote.
But this is America.
This is America.
It can happen here.
Whew, well, that's a relief. Except, but really? Why are you so certain that it can?
November 12th, 2023, at a rally in Claremont, New Hampshire.
the former president of the United States, campaigning for his third consecutive nomination to be Republican candidate for president, said,
We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country, that lie and steal and cheat on elections. Can you believe it? They cheat on elections. The radical left, they will do anything. The threat from outside forces is far less sinister and dangerous than the threat from within.
threat from within? What does that mean? What is he talking about?
Project 2025 spells it out pretty clearly.
Eliminate the deep state, cut the civil service.
And all those immigrants,
Hiding in schools and churches and hospitals?
round
Round them up!
put them in camp,
By the millions.
They don't call it ICE for nothing.
Fire the climate scientists.
fire the librarians,
Fire the history teachers.
You're fired.
By Act 3 of It Can't Happen Here, Doremus Jessup is tortured and imprisoned in a concentration camp for seditious writing critical of the Windrip administration.
He dreams of escape to a better place.
Think of being in a place where you can speak right out without looking back over your shoulder. Think of Montreal.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. Your concern, your patriotism, my patriotism, that's a tricky word these days, is deeply moving to me. My name is Dorothy Thompson. I lived from 1893 to 1931, to 1934, and enjoyed the wonderful distinction of being the first American journalist to be expelled from Nazi Germany in 1934. I wrote the book, I Saw Hitler, and I did. My book is out of print, alas, but it was quite the sensation of time. I describe the man thus: he is formless, he is inconsequential, and he is voluble, ill-poised and insecure. He is the very prototype of a little man. Ring any bells? Okay, there's more. I was married to Sinclair Lewis. He also wrote a book, which was quite a sensation at the time, but his is still very much in print, bastard. What did I learn from my time in Germany? Well, when our dictator turns up, you can depend on it that he will be one of the boys. He will stand for everything traditionally American. They will greet him with one great big universal democratic sheep-like bleat of, "Okay, sir. You alone can fix it, sir. Fight, fight, fight." I first expressed this concern in 1936, but I'm afraid it is even more urgent for all of us in 2024. My concern is this: we have moved so far away from being an informed public to being a persuaded public. When liberty is taken away by force, it can be restored by force. But when it is relinquished by default, it can never be recovered.
Dorothy Thompson, as I live and breathe, and I don't, not since 1961, may I rest in peace. I'm the other Dorothy, the funny one. I'm Dorothy Parker, and I hear you. When editors ask me what I was doing to combat fascism, and I can only answer, not enough. My last editor said, "God damn it, why can't you be funny again?"
In 1936, Dorothy Parker helped found the Hollywood Anti-Nazi League. When she died in 1967, she bequeathed her estate to Martin Luther King Jr.
Again, Ms. Parker, like so many writers who were anti-fascist activists in the 1930s, I was blacklisted in the 1950s by the distinguished Republican from Wisconsin. Any guesses? Senator Joe McCarthy.
I have here in my hand a list of 205 people that were known to the Secretary of State as being members of the Communist Party.
One of the many times when it did happen here. Ugh, why can't I make that sound funny?
Before the internet,
and podcasts,
Funny. And blogs.
long before 8-track tapes,
and television,
And color movies.
there was only radio.
And in 1936, if you wanted to win the presidency, you absolutely had to have the support of
Father Charles Coughlin.
The radio priest,
demagogue, and master of the medium.
reaching 1/4 of all Americans every week.
In the play, Lewis calls him Pastor Paul Peter Prang.
Today, we might call him Fox News.
Spoiler alert, FDR did not have the support of Father Charles Coughlin.
Oh, of course you do not have my support. Democracy in America is doomed. This is our last election. It is fascism or communism. We are at a crossroads. I take the road to fascism.
Father, what?
And when we get through with the Jews of America, they'll think the treatment they received in Germany was nothing.
Nor did FDR have the support of Pastor Paul Peter Prang, fictional father in Lewis's play, whose imitation of Coughlin wasn't terribly exaggerated.
I'm Pastor Peter Paul Prang, and while I have no quarrel with individual Jews, those subversive international organizations, which unfortunately are so largely Jewish, must be driven with whips and scorpions from off the face of the earth.
Today we have Alex Jones.
Unfortunately, folks, we gotta help the innocents and face the demons that have taken over. We gotta face it. Most of your top government people are child rapists, murdering scum. I've told you everything else. You've seen it come true. It's a pedophile army.
And we have a vice presidential nominee.
America is being run by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
Wait, what again?
Kamala Harris, childless cat lady?
Oh, he means no offense.
No, of course. Let me be clear. I have nothing against cats.
Okay, but how about women? How's it going for women?
Well, in China, Xi Jinping crushed feminist movements, silencing women who have accused powerful men of sexual assault.
And in North Korea, Kim Jong-un spurred women to seek refuge abroad at roughly 3 times the rate of men.
And in Afghanistan, the Taliban's victory has erased 20 years of progress on women's access to education and representation in public office and the workforce.
But here in the U.S.,
Oh, here in the U.S., the Supreme Court erased 50 years of progress. 50 years.
making the subjugation of women a matter of law.
And here in the U.S., the Republican nominee for
President of the United States
was ordered by a Manhattan jury to pay $83 million for defaming a woman.
A woman he raped in a department store.
So what was the reaction of the Republican nominee for,
President of the United States.
as he left the courtroom?
This is not America.
Actually, it is.
This is not America.
It is actually. Yep, sure is. Nobody above the law? Yeah. It's pretty much how it's supposed to work, actually. Until a few months ago.
This is not America. It's not, it's not, it's not!
Fearing for his precarious hold on power, in Sinclair Lewis's play, President Buzz Woodruff raises an armed militia.
An armed militia which is independent of established government agencies.
An armed militia which is directly accountable to President Woodruff.
An armed militia which imprisons.
Assaults.
And murders American citizens who disagree in any way with President Winthrop.
An armed militia with the sole function of intimidating dissent.
In Sinclair Lewis's fiction, they are called
The
Minutemen.
And in America, in 2024, we have real armed militias. They are called
Constitutional sheriffs.
Three presenters.
Guardians of Liberty.
Michigan Wolfpack.
Army of God,
Aryan Nation.
Boogaloo Boys.
Oath Keepers.
White League,
Proud Boys.
Patriot Movement.
Imperial Clans of America.
QAnon.
all awaiting instructions from from their commander-in-chief.
I am your voice. I am your justice. For those of you who have been wronged or betrayed,
Instructions which may be issued on January 6th
I am your retribution.
or on any other day.
Stand back and stand by.
Sinclair Lewis ended his play. It can't happen here with the admonishment of remember everything. Remember America.
But what America are we to remember?
In the America I remember, I can check out any book from the library, read all the possibilities. No books are banned or burning in the America I remember.
In the America I remember, I can seek help for my body and future when I am in danger.
I can marry the person I love, no matter who that is.
In the America we remember, we have choice.
I remember never having a lockdown drill, never having heard the word school shooting. I can go to school unafraid in America I remember.
I remember speaking freely even with those whose views opposed mine.
I remember the long arc of America bending toward justice.
I remember when the insights of science informed the basis of government policy.
When hurricanes, forest fires, or heat waves struck, no one denied them. We rallied to help our brothers and sisters.
I remember all of our votes being counted fair and free. Elections being fair and free. I remember accepting the certified results of elections. I remember the peaceful transfer of power. America, I remember.
The America I remember opens its golden door and cries, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
Remember,
Remember with us.
Remember everything.
Remember America. But how? How are we going to do that?
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America. From border to border and coast to coast and all the ships at sea, this is Walter Winchell. Let's get to press.
remember that Sinclair Lewis' play was seen across the nation 1 week before the 1936 presidential election.
The election results are in. President Roosevelt has carried every state in the nation except 2.
Remember America.
As Maine goes, so goes Vermont.
Remember your sacred duty as a citizen of this nation.
Vote.
In November 1936, we
did! At least those Americans who had the right to vote. The rest of us had to wait another 30 years.
This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and it is my privilege to serve as your newly elected president. I see a great nation upon a continent, but there's a challenge to our democracy. I see tens of millions of its citizens denied the necessities of life. 1/3 of a nation ill-housed, ill-clad, ill-nourished, I remember. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have too much, it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little.
Oh yes.
We are determined to make every American citizen the subject of this country's interest and concern. I shall do my utmost to speak to their purpose and to do their will, to give light to them that sit in darkness and to guide our feet onto the way of the peace.
Remember America.
Remember freedom.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of worship.
freedom from want.
Freedom from fear.
Remember America. But
What do we
do? Pay attention.
What do we do? Get involved.
what
do we do?
Ask a question.
What do we do?
Read.
What do we do?
Listen closely.
What do we do? Give respect.
What do we do? Challenge authority.
What do we do?
Think.
What do we do?
Say their names.
What do we do? Believe women. What do we do?
Stay awake.
What do we do?
Act.
What
What
do
do
we
we
do? Open your mind.
What do we do?
Get the facts.
What do we do? Show up.
What do we do? Vote. What do we do? Vote. What do we do? Get out the vote. It can't happen here.
We are the writers for democratic action, and we approve this gathering. Thank you for coming. Stick around. Let's talk to each other. It must not happen here.
November 5th and beyond. So we'll hand out these flyers. We've done a bunch over there. You can visit the Democratic Committee website as well, which has a bunch of information. And also we want to mention this production will be done in Newburyport.
Right.
Beth?
2 more performances if you want to recommend it to others, or if you want to see it again in a different place with different readers. October 19th, Saturday at Jabberwocky Books, and Sunday, October 27th in the afternoon at the Peg Center for Art and Activism. And I'm going to put the flyer on the board.
Thank you. Thank you.
In the introduction, I've got
Yes,
to
yes,
thank
indeed.
Phil Grandier sitting in the back volunteering to do the a neighbor of mine, and I don't think anybody here can, maybe I could be wrong, 81-year resident of Ipswich, right? Questions, comments, suggestions? You know, yeah, what's on your mind? What would be useful to share, ask, or suggest to the group? Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
In relation to doing something, thank you so much. This is so moving. I see our future as creating diversity of a population here in Ipswich specifically, and wanted to ask everyone to vote yes on MBTA 3A at our town meeting, because we have an opportunity to redesign our whole downtown. At the same time, our dam's coming out and revitalize the downtown so that we can create housing for everybody. Thank you.
Some of you kind of choked up when you were reading certain lines, and I'm wondering if you want to, or just tell me to sit down and shut up.
No, I know what you're talking about.
But I
Yeah.
noticed it, and I
was
thought,
trying,
wow.
and I, you know, when you're supposed to be neutral, you know, I'm not supposed to like choke up on my own stuff. But it really, the whole FDR thing is, even as neutral as you want to be, it's a little hard to not think, well, why couldn't it be here?
Well, it was very moving for the audience to see that. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there are any folks here who might remember that era from the 30s. I mean, that was quite a while ago, but I was a baby when the war ended. And I don't really remember, you know, the fascism being a big thing then, which is good. But I was wondering if anybody has any experience.
I don't think any of us go back quite that far.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard stories about FDR from my mom, you know, she loved
Yes.
her. So that's about as close as I could.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that Rick Steves on TV, GBH, Channel 2, puts on a fabulous program about fascism.
Yes.
And if anybody could possibly watch it or put it in their classroom or wherever, it's just fantastic. He does it in a very, very special way. It's worth a watch. Rick Steves.
Excuse me, PBS.
Mary?
And even though obviously, as you were saying, not many of us remembered it, the 1930s was the time that the left was probably strongest in the United States that it ever had been. It's also true that fascism was at its strongest then too, partly because of Charles Lindbergh and the America First movement.
Right.
And of course, many of us who were born post-war still do remember Joe McCarthy and the House Un-American Activities Committee and the fact that many people were blacklisted who were American citizens. So it's not terribly long ago.
My dad was a lifelong Republican, and he said that FDR saved the country, perhaps the world. And I would like to think that there is that spirit in America today, but I am not seeing a whole lot of it.
Other people from the, following on Carol's suggestion, want to say anything about having been in this? What does this mean to you? Why are you doing it?
The process for you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this spoke to me. I've been kind of wanting to raise the red flag for a long time now and raising it. You know, I learned about the Holocaust in elementary school in Brookline. And I learned that, you know, if you see scapegoating, you gotta stand up and say something. If you see book banning, you can't stand for that. And so when these things started happening in 2016, or it seemed quite obvious to me that we were playing with fire here. And so this, yes, it can happen here. That's the whole point. And we all need to make sure it doesn't. We are caught in a network of, what is MLK Jr.'s quote? We're caught in a network of mutual, I'm not saying it right, mutuality. And we have to realize that. Not one person can fix it, we all can fix it. And we all need to help each other and be tolerant of each other and not kill each other. So. That's,
And you gotta be careful who goes on the school committee and who is a library trustee. We're having that problem in a nearby town, right?
what town?
Middleton.
Oh.
They ran for school committee so they could eventually ban books, and they won it. And they ran for library trustee, two people
Yes.
who want to make sure they can censor it. They won. So you better be very careful.
They're very opportunistic and organized, and, you know,
Who's they?
the people that are banning books.
The people who want to ban books.
It's organized.
No, there's-
So
Well, I guess a couple
yeah.
people in Middleton, she's choosing not to say their names, but a couple people who were elected in Middleton.
So I served on the Masconomet Regional School Committee for 6 years. I know what you're talking about. And actually, I had a line in here that was about being able to have had discourse with people even if you disagree, remember? I think my family can attest to some years on that committee being like really hellish. And I had moments, so you asked like, I actually hadn't really thought about it too much, and if I talk too much, I'll probably start crying. But, and I can go on and on, but I'll focus on the school committee part, which is, I remember a moment with a woman when I had this recognition, and I had this thought in my head that was, if the Nazis were pulling up to take me and I knocked on her door, she would have kept it locked. Like, I knew this, and I was like, these are people that we served on Daisy Scouts together, and all of a sudden I'm seeing a new side of my neighbors, and it was terrifying. And then I have my father, who's 91, immigrant from Greece, when Trump first got elected, not when Trump, the only time ever, got elected. And I was really upset, and he said, America's gonna be okay. You have a strong democracy here. You're gonna be okay. My parents he was born in 1933. He remembers the Civil War in Greece after the Second World War. I think, you know, we all hold some of these things in our bodies, right? So, and he said that to me with such confidence. But it doesn't just happen.
This also made me think about misinformation and how really, really important it is to fact check. And I really think of students in high school, students in college, and just providing a strong array of different points of view and the facts related to that. You know, think of climate change, think of whatever. I had an encounter over this summer with someone who really had very tunnel vision and you know, held a lot of misinformation as truth. So it's just really important for us all to be aware of when we're reading what we agree with, reading what we don't agree with, and just keeping that critical sense and that fact-based importance.
Standing in the back.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, you know, especially here in our own town, if you watch some of the town hall meetings, someone who's been in the crosshairs recently of elected officials, I which I would definitely fact check, rules, laws, they bring up, or when they say, this happened, or someone said, well, who said? Who was the person that, someone came with a concern, well, who came with a concern? Because when you push back on that and ask more specific questions, there's no answer. It's very silent. Or when they're citing a rule, they can't remember the name of it or the law, there's a thing, which rule, which law? And then actually present that and read it and look it up. So it's been very interesting to watch town hall meetings lately and see what's been happening. So it can happen here.
It's not a loss on me, and I think probably a lot of people in this room, that all the performers tonight are women. And to me, we're all in danger from the potential loss of democracy, but women are on the front lines for multiple reasons, including the fact that it's men that are the brunt of a lot of the things that are occurring right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon, motion?
Yeah, you saw, they were so nice here, one of them looks like she might cry, but I don't want my kids to inherit a worse America than what I grew up in.
Yeah.
And I'm recently 40 years old, I'm not that old, and I still, most of the presidencies have been great in my memory. I don't remember anything before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I just don't want my kids to inherit a worse world than what I grew up seeing, so I'm really compelled to vote and get that vote out there.
I have a way for you to get involved if you'd like to come. Saturday the 19th, we're going to have a big rally for Krista Kastner.
Can you stand up for it?
This flyer.
I'm a little bit creaky. So, this is, I think, related. We're going to have a nice Democratic leaning rally we call it the Rally for Freedom. We're going to have Kristen Kastner speaking. We're going to have surrogates speaking for Seth Moulton and Elizabeth Warren. And we're just going to get together, have a good time. There's going to be some music with Orville Giddings. And I hope everybody will come out. And snacks, yes.
And I don't know if you guys saw, Kristen did attend tonight.
Yeah,
Lovely,
where's
and
Kristen?
quietly came and everybody.
Off to another meeting.
Yeah.
Good job.
And if you know anyone else who wasn't here tonight and would like to see it, that's the same day, but later in the afternoon, that people can go to the Jabberwocky and Mary Ford.
It's 4 to 5:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's 3 to 4:30 on the following Sunday, October 27th.
Thanks.
While we have a captive audience, and also since you're mentioning others, you're welcome to come and talk to me after if you're curious about question 2 on the ballot this year, having served on the school committee, 100% yes. So if anyone has any questions.
I'm a retired educator and I've been canvassing.
Yes, on to it.
We're also recording, so this will be on ICAM.
Oh, good. Excellent.
You can share it.
Anyone else?
Thank you, everybody.
Actually, okay, one more before we close.
So I got choked up. In fact, this terrifies me. So it's really hard for me to speak. This is October 8th. Yesterday was a very hard day for me. October 7th, I dreaded it. I'm Jewish. In 2016, I lost a good friend because I said, look, this man is running for office, and he came down the escalator speaking hate, and I'm scared. And she was like, oh no, his daughter's married to a Jewish person, we're all safe, you should watch more Fox News. So I lost a friend, but it does terrify me. I'm shaking right now because it's not about Jews. It's not even about immigrants. I listen to news broadcasters and saying, are we the enemy? Are news broadcasters enemy? Are they going to be locked up, right? Are anybody, am I going to be locked up because I speak up online, or on the streets, on the corners, you know. So it's, you know, Jews have been a scapegoat for thousands of years. You know, immigrants are the latest scapegoat today in 2024, right? But it's not just going to be immigrants. It was not just Jews that were killed in concentration camps. And, you know, it's, you know, if I don't speak up now, you know, for the socialist, communist, you know, that you can't stand idly by. And, you know, that has been my motto since, you know, 2016. But, you know, this is a critical time in our government for the safety of the people of the United States. Doesn't matter male, female, what religion you are. And I believe, you know, this play just, you know, it speaks to me very strongly. And, you know, just take to heart put yourself in these people's places and act as if it was you or your child or your neighbor. And because we all have to act here because we are in peril, I believe. And you know, I want
tomorrow it could be us.
Well, exactly. Exactly. It could be anybody. You know, this man is full of hate.
The other.
And you know, he's and Vance, you know.
Well, can you introduce yourself and your organization online?
I'm Lakshmi Saroy. I have been running with Wendy Dafkowitz and others. Ipswich Community Action, amongst other things. I'm a therapist. I see the stress that the country has caused on people.
Yeah, the day after Trump was announced as our president, so-called, Lakshmi and I met for the first time, I think, in Zoomies, along with a couple other people, and we've been active since then, you know, in different ways, rallies, getting out the vote, mainly.
Rallies are great.
And supporting each other, you know, we were wearing our safety pins, remember the safety pins? You know, so that's what we have to do. We have to keep doing it.
Thank you.
All right, well, a lot of food for thought, a lot of fuel for inspiration. Let's take this with us, hold on to it, do the best we can, and thank you.